All right. So first off, I'd like to say that through this whole assessment process that we've done, it's been really nice getting to know you, getting to know your son, Billy. He's a funny little kid, and I really liked working with him. So, do you have any comments on the assessment process, how it went?
I think it went really well. We're kind of new to this, so we just kind of went along, and I hope you got some good stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. You guys were really receptive to any information I gave you. So, first thing I wanted to talk about was just kind of what we found. So we did the play based observation where you
Hmm.
were interacting with Billy a lot, and I was just kind of there,
Hmm.
giving you guys different opportunities to talk with him. And so during that, I found that his receptive language it is definitely a little bit behind.
Hmm.
But he did only just get fitted for hearing aids 6 months ago, and he's only 2. He's
Yeah.
still very, very, very young. But I did notice some expressive language concerns. He became frustrated at that one point
Right.
in time. He isn't vocalizing very often. You said he only knows mama and dada,
Yeah,
correct?
and then a few signs.
Yeah, a few signs. You did mention that, which those are good signs going forward. Not signs as in sign language, but good signs moving forward.
Right.
Um, and so I also did some more formal testing measures, and I found very, very similar results there. Also, when we consulted the occupational and physical therapists, there weren't any concerns with his movement, any abilities like that. And the audiologist that we talked to said that the bone hearing aid that he's using right now is working great.
Good. Good.
And so I just keep in touch with the audiologist and
Right.
make sure that he's receiving proper amplification so he's
Mhm.
hearing right. Um, so moving forward, I do recommend Billy for some expressive language therapy, and also the expressive language stuff will kind of get
Right.
get there with more exposure to that expressive language. So we're gonna go with a family-centered model, and this might sound kind of odd,
Okay.
because I'm sure that when you think of what I do is it'd be me sitting down with Billy for an hour every
Hmm.
week. But what we're going to do is work around your schedule.
Okay.
I'm gonna come into your home once, maybe even twice a week, depending on how things work out, and I'm going to be a coach to you and help you interact with Billy, help you implement different therapy because you're here 24/7 with him all the
Right.
time. You know him better than I do, and the skills that I can equip you with are going to have way better carryover in the long run. So, is this something you think you're comfortable doing?
Yeah, I think if you're willing to help me, if you're willing to, coach me along and tell me what to do, I'm willing to try with
Yeah, I'll
anything.
I'll be your number one resource. I'll answer any questions you have, and I'm always willing to step in and help too. I'm not going to just sit there and not
Good.
interact with Billy whatsoever. So, as many family members as you can get on board too, the more partners, the better.
Absolutely.
The more people you can have implementing this stuff. So,
Hmm.
if dad wants to help, if siblings want to help, that's awesome. So, now that you kind of know where we're going, what is your biggest concerns?
I mean, definitely with you is communicating. For the most part, like you said, he has a couple words and he knows a little bit of sign, but outside of our immediate family, people don't really understand him that well. And so I think communicating with others, he's not doing that much right now. And I'm also a little worried about teaching him more signs, even though I know that helps him right now. I'm worried that he's only going to sign, he's never going to talk.
Yeah. So that is a very valid concern. And in relation to his communication abilities, I consider myself another person. And when I was there with you guys, we were sitting all there together, and Billy was communicating with me, with you guys, all the time. And you obviously can understand him the best. You're
Right.
around him the most often. But he's regularly pointing at objects. He's looking for mutual eye contact. He looks at an object, looks at you. He wants you to look at that. That's
Right.
communication. He is using sign that shows that he understands what communication
Yeah.
is. He realizes that it's a give and take process, and so that is really big. Um, but we do want him to eventually get to more verbalized language, which is one of your concerns with the sign language. And it's been awesome that you've been implementing that sign without anybody even really telling you, because believe it or not, there's a lot of research in our field that um, states basically that sign language helps implement and facilitate further language growth. So I would even argue that we might want to keep using that sign and
Hmm.
even bolster it a little bit, get some more sign usage,
Hmm.
and teach him some more signs just because his verbalizations are probably going to increase the more language
Yeah.
exposure we get and more exposure he gets to hearing. Um, and so the specific therapy approach we're going to use is uh, auditory visual therapy. And it's really how it sounds. It sounds like kind of big and scary, but it's not. It's basically focusing on having him make connections between the auditory or hearing information that he's getting and the visuals that he's seeing. So
Yeah.
the world around him and
Right.
kind of getting that vocabulary and attributing different words to different objects.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that using the sign, this therapy approach, is something that you would be interested in?
Yeah, I love that he has sign, and I think he's more successful when he has sign to talk. I just was kind of nervous in the back of my mind, like, am I just providing a crutch or am I actually helping him? So that makes me feel better that he'll still talk even if he has sign, and it might help.
And the nice thing about the way that we do early intervention is it's dynamic, and we can always change the way that we're approaching things. So if you don't feel comfortable using sign 2-3 months from now, we can always switch our route and make sure that we're getting what makes you guys happy and is working best for Billy. So what other concerns do you have?
I mean, you talked a little bit about some auditory stuff, but I mean, he really doesn't listen. Like, he doesn't listen very much. He doesn't follow directions. Sometimes I feel like he just doesn't care what I'm saying. So that's, that can be a challenge during the day.
Yeah, and that's, again, a very, very, very valid concern, and I hear that a lot. But with Billy, he is a really interesting case because he's kind of been through it all with his ears and his hearing.
Yeah.
But he just started receiving proper hearing 6 months ago, like I said. And so it's kind of hard for us to expect him to have those fully fleshed out receptive skills, but we got that amplification soon enough, and he's making great progress. His receptive skills are far beyond what I'd expect for someone who's only been hearing for 6 months.
That's nice to hear.
Yeah, because he's regularly, when you point and say look, he's looking.
Mm-hmm.
He's repeating sounds after you guys. That means he's hearing them. He's listening, and so that's great. And that's a really good foundation for us to build off of. And the way that we're going to do that is basically just continue with our expressive intervention, our expressive language intervention, and from there he's going to get a lot of language exposure. You're going to keep introducing new words to him around the house, and that's going to make it really, really, really awesome, and his receptive language is going to, it's going to come around, for sure.
Okay. So do you think that's going to help behavior-wise? Because he does, have some not appropriate behaviors. Do you think when he listens more and he'll like follow my instructions, stop when I tell him to stop?
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of that hearing component to that, but also a lot of children will act out when they can't express themselves effectively. And based off of what I've seen, Billy strikes me as a very smart kid. He liked playing with you guys. He's a social kid, and he wants to interact with you guys. And if he doesn't have a means through which to do that, it'd be frustrating. Imagine if you couldn't talk.
Right.
I mean, he's starting to hit that age where he's becoming adventurous.
Yeah.
So we just really need to keep on getting that language exposure, possibly use some symbols around the house, and that's a lot like the sign. It's just going to help facilitate further language growth. Just so he does have a means through which to express himself right now, so he doesn't get frustrated anymore.
Yeah.
So if all of these steps seem like they'd be comfortable for you to implement in the home, we'll make sure that we're in the natural setting.
Awesome.
We're working with you here, working with your daily routines and the objects that are around your home all the time, so you're comfortable. Because the main thing is we want this to be focused around you. So
that's nice. Well, thank you.
Oh, no problem.